Well, what we're doing is we're repairing the road from on Route 36 from Lyons to Estes Park. At this site, what we're doing is we're creating a retaining wall that will be used to pour in some flowable material that will be used to buttress and support this off-ramp wing walls kind of structure that we have right here. What that'll allow us to do is then go from that supporting of that structure to creating a road that will go from that off-ramp, go across where this river has now been move the river back into its original banks, and then actually create a road that will go up to the Longmont Reservoir for the city of Longmont's water supply. Well, this retaining wall is actually being constructed by the 219th Red Horse out of Montana Air National Guard. And what we have here is we have the perfect combination of the Guard. Whereas someone has a civilian skill set that they've developed on the civilian side, they've brought here to the Guard, and we're using that to contribute to the community. In this situation, we have an airman that has a business on the side, where he actually does landscape design, landscape construction, and so he's building a retaining wall here using that skill set. His uncle is actually his senior NCOIC, which is kind of neat, and that's another aspect of the National Guard, which allows families to work together and serve together.
I'm Staff Sergeant Ben Parriman. I'm with the 219th Red Horse out of the Montana Air National Guard. What's neat about the Guard is leadership on an upper level really knows their troops in our unit, and you know, they had known that about my skill sets, I guess, and that's why they said this is the guy for the job. I know he can do it. I came down here and did a site visit, and I knew right away that it was something that I could handle and that the 219th Red Horse could accomplish. Right now, we're starting to work on the short end of this retaining wall. It's getting pretty tied up against that side over there, so what we do is we kind of stage all the boulders out so we can get a good look at all the different sides of the rock. And it's kind of like fitting a puzzle piece together. And so it takes a good eye to be able to develop a skill, I guess, to look at a rock and know exactly where it's going to fit in place. Another thing too is when we're building these walls, you always have to think about your next move. You can't just say, oh, that one fits good there, but the next rock won't. So you have to always be watching in front of you. That way you don't leave yourself with an area that you can't work off of.
The river that's over here to my left is actually supposed to be over here to my right. When the water breached its banks, it flooded out. As you can see, even this house behind me over here has lost its entire foundation and everything. So our project here is to build a retaining wall back here behind me at the bridge, and in the end we'll re-divert the river back to its original banks over here on the other side. Eventually, once we get the water flowing back over here in its original banks, I imagine we'll bring bulldozers and that in, and we'll push all of this earth that got moved by Mother Nature in the flood, and we'll support that foundation or that wall over there and try and protect those houses more.
There's some similarities between a civil disaster and combat. There's the chaos, there's the immediate need to do something and make some kind of contribution right now. But then there's all these other positive things that come from a civil response. And those have to do with the local community. These are our neighbors. You immediately feel that from them. They'll come up and they'll shake your hand, they'll thank you, bring you cookies or whatever. There's a visceral appreciation for what you're doing. Now in combat zones, you can get appreciation from folks, especially in a high trauma scenario where you're providing assistance. But you're talking a huge cultural divide. When you're doing it somewhere in the United States, there's none of that. There's none of those barriers, those cultural barriers. And so somebody walks right up to you and in your own language says thank you. That's powerful.
I have never been more proud of working with a group of individuals than I am on this project right here. So I've had 5 deployments in my career. I've been all over the world. But this project, the attitude of the airmen and the soldiers that I'm working with is just outstanding. I've never worked with a finer group of people.
Talk about their motivation.
You know what motivates the Guard personnel to come into a situation like this is we know that this could happen in our communities back home. And it has happened to some communities of our people. We love to jump in, get our hands dirty, and get the job done, help the people out that need to have it done. So these people, I would expect at some point, maybe someday they'll come in and help my community out. It's what Guard family is all about.